Welcome, race fans, and welcome, slot car fans, track fans, everyone. Thank you for coming back. I just want to provide a quick update on what I've been up to with the track. Yesterday, I showed you the canvas was ready, and so now I have my first HO track down. I had nothing planned. I didn't use a track planner. I think that's the all the fun in it is just going, having maybe a sort of plan in your head and trying to figure out how it works on the layout. And so I was here for a couple of hours yesterday. I was putting things together, taking things apart, trying to figure out what I really wanted. I know I didn't want, just as the same with my 132nd Carrera track, I didn't want overpasses. I tried to avoid that. I'd like things to be kind of flat. It seems like less issues that way and easier to get the cars that come off the track. I didn't want to have to reach under things and have things get lost or it. To me, that's just me. For people who love it, that's fantastic. That's the great part of this hobby, is that it's so individualistic. You could just put your own touches on what you like and what you enjoy, and that's the fantastic part of it. And that's what I love. I love watching everyone else's tracks, and I'll say, it's great for them. They're happy. That's fine. That's great. I love it for them that they're happy. People look at this and say, well, no, I don't really care for that. But as long as he's happy, that's great. And that's what it's all about. Be happy with what you're doing. Enjoy it. Put your individual touches on it, and just have fun. And that's all this is here. I worked for a couple hours taking things apart, putting things back together, trying to make things fit, trying to make things work, trying to incorporate what I wanted. And eventually I came up with this. This may not last. I'm going to, test it out, see how it flows, see how it runs, see how much I like it, see how much everybody else around me that comes, mainly my family, likes driving on the track, if they enjoy things, if there's certain aspects of it that cause issues, with deslotting and, something that's too difficult to maneuver around, then we'll change it up. Nothing is set in stone. I have about 200 AFX track clips all ready to go, but I'm not using them because everything here is most likely temporary. We'll see how it goes. And if it does stick, it sticks. And whatever does stick will stay. And so I'm just having fun with it. And so it took about 2 hours to come up with this. I initially wanted, these, I have these 18-inch curves, and I had a lot of them, and I wanted to incorporate them, and I didn't want any, of the normal standard 15-inch curves. I didn't want any in the layout, but I think this is the only area here where I kind of needed it. But I wanted as few as possible, if none, to work on this track. So to increase the flow, and I have a lot of other curves built in here, so it makes it interesting, makes it a challenge. Now, I didn't want the overpass, and I know that creates issues with lane lengths and things like that, and some lanes may be, a little have more of an advantage than other lanes. So that's yet to be seen. As I was building it, I definitely wanted this area here with the long front stretch. I definitely wanted that, and then nice flow turns and all the way. And I even said, why not have a long back stretch too? At the very least, that'll solve issues with, there shouldn't be too many wrecks along that back part there. So, during a race, there's less issues with having to go back there. I maybe even shove this up a little closer to the wall over there, and get more space in the middle of the room. So yeah, that's yet to be seen, but I was able to incorporate that, and I'm very happy with that. So that flows really nicely, and it's a 4-lane track. So I wanted to have a little something different to where the lanes sort of split off from each other. And so I created this, and just as a little difference. So it's not all side by side track all the way around. There's something different here, and this is the technical part of it. And I initially started by counting the number of tracks, counting the number of 15-inch straights and 12-inch straights and 18-inch straights, and I wanted to have them, exactly the same. And then I thought about it. This isn't a science project. I scrapped that. I just went with what looked good, what I liked in a flow, and what seemed to be make it a little fair, as fair as possible. Now, my thoughts are the outside lanes here, they have a way all the way around the track. And so when the inside lane is probably, less of racing diameter. So I wanted the inside lanes to be where their outside lanes here are a little bit longer in length. And maybe that solves the issue to make them a little bit more even. Maybe it doesn't. I haven't counted inches yet. This is just something that is raw right here. So when I count everything up, I'll see how it works. I'll see how the flow goes. I'll test out all the lanes. I'll drive and drive around and try to race with one of my competitive cars and see how I do on all 4 lanes. I'll time myself, get my timer out here, time myself, see how things work out. And who knows, if one of the lanes has an advantage, then you know what? If there's a racer that comes by that's new or inexperienced or young, that'll be their lane. It'll be a way of evening out the competition in a way. So that I'm not even concerned about. But I don't have people here at this point anyway, that professional racers, slot car drivers are not coming to this track as of now. Things could progress. We'll see what happens in the coming years or whatever. But as of now, it's just a fun family activity, and we have some friends that love coming over and driving on that big Carrera track. So they love that, and everybody who does always says, yeah, I had the HO cars as a kid, they had the AFX. So they all know this. So my thoughts are, this is what they know and had loved as kids. And so this is something that they might want to enjoy too. So, but it's always going to be all in good fun. I'm probably going to have, not that I'm so great at driving this, but I'm probably going to have a lot more experience than anybody else that's on this track, at least initially. So if there's a lane that's worse, then that'll be my lane. So I'm not concerned at all about that. The whole thing is to have fun. And if we do get to where there's competitions here, then, of course, we'd have alternate lanes. You drive in each of the 4 lanes over the course of the race. So that's not an issue at all. So with that being said, I still have a little bit more work to do. I have my lane tape here for the 4 lanes. Now this is really just a basic set. This is the Victory 400 set with some extra track pieces. So it's the wireless set, which is fantastic. It works great. It's like I have said, this is not a competitive environment, and it's competitive within itself. So we're not going high tech here. This could always be upgraded as things progress. I have 2 grandsons that love this, so if in a few years or months, the way they're progressing, then we'll upgrade the equipment, power supplies. I do have a power supply, but I'm not using it now. Just using everything is standard. Track is standard. I turn this around so this way for 2 reasons. One is now the cars will go clockwise, and to me a road course should be clockwise. That's just how I grew up. Ovals go counterclockwise. I love NASCAR, love the counterclockwise, but being a road course, I'd love it to go clockwise, which also worked in this case because this thing sticking out here, I didn't want this hanging off the track, or I didn't want to push in the track to accommodate that. So it works that it's turned around the other way. Works fine. And this way nobody brushes up against it when they walk past. and no issues like that. And so it's great that way. Just have to remember that it's red, white, blue, and yellow is that way, and I'll have to make sure accordingly around the track as I put the tape on. Now, as for a name, now this is in the initial stages. Things could change, but what I'd like to do with this track, I have simple themes. My theme on the Carrera track, as you know, is the Noah's Ark. So there's animals around the track. There's a Noah's Ark centerpiece on the track, and so that's what that is, and that's the end of that story. I don't go too elaborate with other things. I love watching people who do have these buildings, fantastic looking structures now, and it's fantastic for the hobby. But that's just not me. I love watching everybody else's, and I feel that's my enjoyment of it, is watching someone else and seeing how beautiful they put their tracks. But for me, I have a bunch of relics from early HO days, and so I thought, okay, I had these on the Carrera track. Let me bring them over here, make some space on that track so everything isn't so congested with these pieces. And so I said, you know what? Let me put them on this track and have a little touch. It's an HO track, so let's show some of the history of HO. So I dug out some of these pieces, and starting with the AFX lap counter that I had as a kid. And so that was the first piece. I said, this has got to be part of this track. And then there's also, Tyco made some incredible pieces with this dinosaur from the Jurassic Park set that reaches down and grabs the cars, and there's the magnets that pick up the special trucks that have the magnets on them. And so that's fantastic. So this T-Rex is definitely going to be a part of this layout, as of course this guy from also a Tyco set. And so just these wonderful pieces, the eyeball from that monster that Tyco did. I have a few other pieces lying around. I'm going to have to dig through the garage and do it underneath my slot car track in the room, and figure out what else I can add. And for a name, I'm thinking, since it's a tribute to all of these HO pieces, I'd like to call it something like HO World, HO Park, HO Land. I'm thinking right now that HO Land may be the way to go. HO World would be fantastic, I think, but it reminds me too much of Auto World. And I don't know. That's what I think of when I hear HO World. But HO Land kind of has a special meaning to me, because when we were young, my parents would set up the Christmas tree, and we had a whole bunch of little tiny Santas, little Santa Clauses, maybe about, all different sizes, but generally 2 to 4 to 5 inches tall. And we would set them up underneath the Christmas tree on top of the skirt. We would put some snow down, the cotton snow, and we would set up all these Santas, and we had like 50 of them. And so my dad created this sign, and he called it Santa Land. And so that was the Santa Land, and that was one of the most special parts of Christmas to me. When we put up the tree, the last thing to be put up was Santa Land. And my brother and I were in charge of doing that, positioning all the little Santas under the tree on that skirt, on the snow, the cotton snow. So I'm thinking, kind of as a great memory for me, to call this HO Land, or HO Land Speedway, HO Land Raceway. So I'm thinking about it. That seems to be the way to go. If you have any thoughts on that, let me know. And yeah, I'd love to hear what your thoughts are. And of course, let me throw in this Pro Tinker. I'm going to prop that up as time goes by, and some other maybe some other places where I've bought slot cars recently. I'd like to have their billboards somewhere along the track. Also, I do have a question if somebody knows anything about this. Now, I usually use this when I test cars. This is, I have a DeFalco controller that I love, and this is a piece of Tyco, which I have a lot of Tyco track, so I just got the two adapters, and this is what I stick on, and I use the Auto World track and Auto World / AFX track to drive and test cars. This is my own little thing. It's mainly just me testing and working on cars, oiling them up and running them, and this is what I use. But for when the kids come over and when everyone else is over, I have this for the 4 lanes. Now, my question is, if I just add this in here, just replace this part, can I run this? And if this is shut off or unplugged, or what extent does this have to be out of the equation in order to not cause any issues with either system, especially this one? Do I have to remove this piece, or just by simply unplugging it or just by turning it off, is that sufficient enough that nothing's going to damage in that unit if I run this second unit? Or is it possible just keep that the way it is and just have this also, just put this in the piece here and run this whenever I want, and this could be my own little separate thing that I never have to worry about taking on and off? So that's just something that I'm thinking about. If somebody knows the answer to that, that would be great. I hope the answer is that I could just leave that in there and they can exist without any issues. So yeah, let me know if you can. I'd really appreciate that. And so that's a bit about what I have here. Let's see. Let me take a car around. Take my grandson's police car and take it for a little spin. Now, my thoughts are that when I'm here doing my testing and experimenting, that, well, I'm a terrible driver, that when I'm doing this is going to be the lane that I use. There. Okay, I'm going to have to test a little further. Let's see what happens here. Yeah, I don't even have any, okay, I made it. Yeah, I could see right now, this is a rough riding car, and I'm gonna have to go around and tighten things down. You can see it bumpy. If I use something like this, it's a little smoother. This is the lane I'm going to use, I think I was starting to say, because there's less guardrail and that's less rubbing around in this lane than any of the others. So I think this is going to be my test lane. As for guardrail, let me bring him around here. As for guardrail, I may have gone overboard with the guardrail, but I used these AFX, these very nice AFX walls and the catch fences, and I had just enough. I purchased these like a year ago in anticipation of this, and I bought just enough to go around the perimeter all the way around. I don't know if that's going to be sufficient for when people are racing. It's going to be sufficient when I'm testing. I don't think I want to be slamming cars into the walls. I probably will, because sometimes, these cars, a lot of them are not cheap. They're, worth hundreds of dollars in some cases. And, I'm just oiling them up, checking them, and I'll go through some of the cars in an afternoon and oil them up. And I don't want to race the cars, because if you have a car that's worth $100 and it hits the floor and it cracks a window post, now it's worth $15 at most. So that's the catchy part of this hobby, is we want to enjoy it. We want to race to the fastest, to the fullest with each of our cars, and that's in your blood. But then it comes to the point where, if something falls off the table and cracks, you just cost yourself a lot of money. So that's the catchy part of this. It's a really tricky part, and I find myself caught up when I just want to oil a chassis and run it around a few laps, make sure everything's okay. But you get caught up in it. I want to take this car and see how fast it can go, and I want to drive it. I want to race it, and I do. And so that's the scary part. I'm scared of my own self on what I could do to these things, but I can't help it because I just love it. And yeah, so I guess there's an alternative to that. You could take the shell off the chassis and put like a shell that you use just for practice, something inexpensive, one of these or something that you can get a dime a dozen of, and drive away, and doesn't matter if something happens to that. But that becomes a pain to switch on and off the chassis, and in some cases when you're dealing with cars that are like 50 to 60 years old, you don't want to take these chassis off, the bodies off the chassis more than you need to. You want to be careful about that. Sometimes they'll crack just getting the chassis, out of there. And so that becomes an issue. And with the older T-Jets from the 60s, you really don't want to mess with them too much. When I first get one, oil it, take it all off, make sure everything's okay, clean it up. And that's basically it. Maybe once a year, I go back through the whole catalog of cars and oil them, put some oil on just in the drop in the bottom there, and not really go much further than that, because I don't want to take off the chassis, take off the bodies all the time. So that's a difficult situation. It's just the dilemma of slot cars, and but it's still very fun, very enjoyable, and yeah. So I put up those the catch fences all the way around. Just had enough. It was perfect. And then I said, ideally, I would love to have borders, for drifting in any cases that, especially in the mid sections here, that can, cars can drift out a little bit. That would be ideal. And so I have all these guardrails, and I said, let me just put them down initially and see how it works. I may get rid of them. It may be something like, hey, this is a road course. You have to slow down. You can't be drifting out and falling off the track, and teach people to drive, really, So with the guardrails, you can run those guardrails, ride them, and that, I don't know if that may take the fun out of it, but we'll see. That's one of those things that's still up in the air, like everything else. This is just a very first time thing for me, and I'm still extremely excited about this, and I love it. Now, of course, like I said, I'll eventually probably upgrade from this, but so far this works fine. They're wireless. Everybody can walk around the track. They can go get their car and not have to worry about anything, about tugging anything. So I'm happy with that. Eventually I can upgrade to driver stations and have, everyone has, I have 2 of these controllers right now, 2 of these DeFalcos. So I'll work on getting a couple more just to have in hand for when the time comes, and then upgrade to that and have something more official. And but for now, this will be just fine. For now, this is HO Land Speedway, and we'll run with that. And thank you so much for watching, and have a great day, and hope you enjoyed. Take care.